Welcome to this breaking news live stream. There is breaking news in the world of compounded tirzepatide this morning, and we're going to get into it here on the pin. Before we get into it, hit the like, hit the bell, hit the sub for notifications so that you always get notifications when we go live and cover breaking news just like this. We've got a major announcement from the FDA this morning. An unfortunate announcement, and in some ways a shocking announcement. I fully expected that the FDA was going to kick the can down the road again on the shortages, but they have obviously elected to go to war with the Outsourcing Facilities Association and patients who rely on these medications. I'm just going to read from the FDA's website here. The FDA, this is dated 12/19/2024. And so that is a release from today, just a few minutes ago. The FDA reevaluated its determination from October 2nd, 2024 on the status of the tirzepatide shortage. Today, the FDA has issued a new decision determining the tirzepatide injection shortage is resolved. The FDA's determination is based on its analysis of all information before the agency. In addition to the statements the FDA made regarding enforcement in connection with litigation, to avoid unnecessary disruption to patient treatment, the agency does not intend to take action against compounders for violations of the FD&C Act. That's what outlines 503A and 503B pharmacies. Does not intend to take action against compounders for violating the FD&C Act arising from conditions that depend on tirzepatide injection products' inclusion on the FDA's drug shortage list. For state licensed pharmacy under Section 503A of the FD&C Act, compounding, distributing, or dispensing tirzepatide injections within 60 calendar days from today's announcement until February 18th, 2025 for outsourcing facilities under Section 503B, compounding, distributing, or dispensing tirzepatide injections within 90 calendar days from today's announcement until March 19th, 2025. So essentially what you have here is a delayed enforcement that the FDA is offering to compound pharmacies to basically allow them to off-ramp their patients. This is astounding because I think what this has baked into it, what it's saying without saying it, is that we're not going to enforce this for the foreseeable future until a few months from now. But what happens? How do they determine whether or not tirzepatide will be in shortage next month or the month after? I think it's a clear indication that this is somewhat of a permanent move to remove this from the shortage list. And so this is an extremely disappointing decision by the FDA. Of course, the Outsourcing Facilities Association will continue to fight. They've said that they would continue to fight this. We had an interview with the legal counsel the legal counsel representing the OFA in the trial between the FDA and the Outsourcing Facilities Association. And he seemed to be quite bullish on status quo. But essentially what we have here is a decision by the FDA to actually remove tirzepatide officially and seemingly permanently from the shortage list. I don't get any indication that they will continue to monitor this in any meaningful way. And I don't have any level of confidence that we are going to continue to get accurate reporting from the pharmaceutical companies on this. So this is a hugely disappointing decision from the FDA, which obviously goes without saying. Now, they did get into the semaglutide shortages because many people are watching that as well. Now, I would expect that process to sort of unfold in the coming days and weeks, similarly to the way that tirzepatide did. But what they say here is the FDA continues to actively monitor drug availability and is currently working to determine whether the demand or projected demand for each drug in the shortage exceeds supply availability. So dulaglutide, which is Trulicity, it's a type 2 diabetes medication made by Eli Lilly. Of course, they use the same injector pens as Mounjaro and Zepbound. The injector pens tending to be the big kink in the supply chain for all of these medications. They are continuing to monitor the semaglutide injection. So semaglutide is going to be Wegovy, which is the obesity indication, and the Ozempic pens, which is the anti-diabetic indication. Semaglutide remains in shortage for the time being, which is good news for those relying on semaglutide or looking for a potential backup option. Liraglutide also remains in shortage. That's going to be your Saxenda and Victoza, as well as the generic versions that are currently available as well. When a status is noted as available, that reflects the most current information from the manufacturer, but is not an FDA determination that the shortage has been resolved, which is essentially just saying, similar to what we've seen, Novo Nordisk is reporting that all their semaglutide products are commercially available, but that does not mean that the FDA has elected to remove it from the master shortage list. But today, that is what they have chosen to do with compound tirzepatide. So again, to sort of recap, some delayed enforcement has been added to the verbiage here. In other words, they're not going to enforce compounders that continue to compound for the next 60 calendar days for 503A pharmacies and for the next 90 days for 503B pharmacies. So it does, at least at a minimum, give an off-ramp to pharmacies that are offering this and for patients to look at other options. Now, I think what we have to start demanding at this point is that Eli Lilly has to release all their vials, and they need to release them in a cash pay price that is similar to what people are getting compounds for. There's absolutely no reason that they cannot do that or should not do that. And of course, that is what we will continue to advocate for here at On the Pen. These options are our critical lifeline. While the FDA is giving an off-ramp to a couple of months, 3 months in the case of 503B pharmacies, that it is incumbent upon Eli Lilly to consider the patient experience in all of this, and they have the ability to. They are a massive company. They can move mountains to expand their resources and offer the vials. And so #release all the vials. Please, if you are a content creator out there, please use the hashtag release all the vials, because at this point there are numbers that we have heard from the Outsourcing Facilities Association in this particular trial is that 80 million prescriptions for GLP-1 compounds were doled out in 2023. So that equates to over 6 million people in the United States relying on compound. This while manufacturers sell every sellable dose that they can possibly manufacture of these drugs. 100 million people in the United States living with the disease of obesity or overweight. And these people would benefit greatly from treatment. And two companies with finite resources will never be able to meet that demand. 503As, 503Bs are critical in helping to maintain access for patients with essential copies while medications are in official shortage. So I'm interested in hearing more data from the FDA on the numbers that they heard. We will, what we have heard is the statement from the FDA today, but what we have not heard from the FDA today is any update in their filing with the lawsuit in the Outsourcing Facilities Association case. So that news is still to come. What they file in there may give us a little bit more insight into where their head's at, maybe even some more granular detail on the numbers that they looked at and why and how they came to this determination. They've had several months to compile a case to basically defend their decision. And I think we ought to demand as patients, we ought to demand that we hear what that information is. We need clarity, open honesty in this process because we deserve it as taxpayers and as patients who rely on these medications. So one of the things that I want to mention is tonight, our show On the Pen Live happens at 9 p.m. Central over on YouTube, and we live stream it also to LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook. And we're going to have the CEO of Ro, CEO of Ro, Z Retano, is going to come on. He's going to talk about Ro's decision this past week to add single-dose vials to Ro's offering seamlessly through the Ro platform. Obviously, the importance of accessibility to those going to be important, but nothing more important than #release all the vials. This is a campaign that we started some time ago, but the importance and the importance of that and the necessity of that is underscored with today's news with the decision by the Outsourcing Facilities Association to officially end the tirzepatide shortage. With that, if anybody has any questions they would like to drop in the comments, please drop them in now. I have a couple more minutes where I can take your questions. But again, some breaking news this morning, the FDA releasing a statement that they have officially resolved the shortages for tirzepatide, saying that they have indeed gone through a process to verify that Eli Lilly has enough product to meet market demand. And this will set off a chain reaction within the community of compounders who are suing the FDA through a trade organization called the Outsourcing Facilities Association. If you missed our interview with the chief legal counsel of the Outsourcing Facilities Association, you could catch that over on YouTube from just the other day. Question about semaglutide. They did address in their statement semaglutide as well as the other utides, liraglutide, dulaglutide, and said that those three molecules still remain in an FDA shortage. Of course, we will be eagerly awaiting a decision on semaglutide, as we know that Novo Nordisk has declared to the FDA that all doses of their medications are currently commercially available. So it's only a matter of time before the FDA has to make a ruling and a decision on that as well. There's no way to spin this. This is a horrible day for accessibility for people relying on compounded versions of anti-obesity medications in a environment where it is still challenging to find both semaglutide and tirzepatide branded versions. If you're looking at pharmacies, if you're still dealing with shortages of these medications, please drop it in the comments of these videos so we can continue to tell the story. It's never been more important than to continue to report the shortage to the FDA. Although I think what they've telegraphed here is that despite that information, despite the reporting of the shortages, they decided to go against what the patients were experiencing in real life. And so, I think this becomes more of a report the shortage so that there is good, solid evidence when the OFA inevitably continues with their litigation against the FDA, because this doesn't have to be the last word. If, as they've telegraphed, the Outsourcing Facilities Association continues on with their lawsuit against the FDA, the judge could potentially grant a stay in this trial, which would potentially allow the 503B compounded copies of these medications to continue. So we'll have to see what happens there. Are the pens sitting on shelves not being bought? No, they're not. Even though Lilly kind of said they are, it just slaps. It's gaslighting, in my opinion, based upon what the reality on the ground is. Is the shortage affecting only brand name or both? The shortage is affecting brand name medications. There's certainly plenty of compound to go around because they offer the compounds in vials, which are much easier to manufacture. I really thought they would wait until the new administration. I think, again, to go back to what I was mentioning before, the interview with the counsel from the Outsourcing Facilities Association had mentioned that they were bullish on sort of status quo. And so I think this is a very interesting turn of events, a very interesting decision by the FDA. Of course, to clarify, as somebody mentioned in the comments, and we've talked about this a lot on this channel, compounds are allowed even when there is no shortage, but there's an important distinction. When there's a shortage, 503B outsourcing facilities can compound and mass produce this stuff without holding an individual prescription. In other words, it hits the FDA shortage list. They get the recipe for these medications, and they can ultimately just start manufacturing, mass producing this to help meet market demand. The end result of what happened today is they now have 90 days to off ramp that type of manufacturing. But when there is no shortage at all, 503A pharmacies have always been able to make versions of the commercially available drug that deviate from the commercially available versions for a individual patient's need, right? So if an individual patient has a issue with the branded medication, and that can look like a couple of things. Perhaps they don't tolerate the commercially available dosages available for titrating. So if they were on, let's say for tirzepatide, the 2.5, and they couldn't handle the 5 milligram jump because that's the next dose, then offering something in between those two doses, if a doctor saw so fit, they could prescribe that. The other thing is if a patient had negative reactions to the branded medication and maybe needed a vitamin or a supplement to be added to it to offset some side effects, then they can compound tirzepatide plus something like a B12. Now, this has always been the case. There doesn't have to be a shortage for that to exist, but I think people get a little twisted on the spirit of 503A compounding, and that is that a patient has a specific need for that. So this idea that we're just going to mass offer and market non-commercially available doses kind of goes against an individual patient's needs. So I think what you're going to see, and this is just an objective statement, I'm not arguing that they shouldn't be doing this or should be doing it, but just objectively, what's going to happen is you're going to see aggressively, Eli Lilly is going to come out against this with another flurry of cease and desist letters. This time, I fully expect pharmacies to be on the receiving end of that. I fully expect providers, telehealth medical providers, to be on the receiving end of that. Why? Because again, the spirit of the law is that offering those doses, there has to be a pre-existing medical need for those types of compounds. And if all of a sudden a doctor who was prescribing the normal dosing is only prescribing now to hundreds or thousands of patients the incremental dosing, I think they're going to run into some issues. And I think Eli Lilly is going to be aggressively coming after them. This is just my own personal theorizing based upon what we've seen from Eli Lilly in the past. So again, to recap one more time, the FDA has officially ended the tirzepatide shortage. If you want to know the implications for that, we have articles, tons of articles on the pen. We're still awaiting any filing in the Texas District Court in the lawsuit between the Outsourcing Facilities Association and the FDA. And we will update you as soon as that happens. If there are important implications there, of course, what I think you'll see is the OFA will continue to fight this. Semaglutide remains in shortage. It was addressed by the FDA today. They said it remains in shortage. Mindy wants to know, should we continue to report the shortage? I think we should. And here's why I think it's important to report the shortage. I think it's important to report the shortage because if the OFA, as they have said that they would, continue with their litigation now that the FDA has made their official determination here, because this whole thing is about patient access and the idea that just because a pharmaceutical company says their drug is available doesn't make it so. They're going to have to make that case now in court, right? And part of what they're going to use as evidence are patient stories. So reporting the shortage is extremely, extremely important. And I think it's really important to use a tool like the Roe Report the Shortage tool that they have put in place a few months ago, because we want that information to live somewhere other than just the FDA, because they've already said at this point, basically, right? This is me putting words in their mouth, but by their actions, what they've said today is doesn't matter what the patients are saying, because the patients have been reporting the shortage. We think it's commercially available. So the 503B pharmacies need to be armed with real-time data on that stuff. So I think using the Roe Report the Shortage, the supply tracker. So it's roe.co /supply-tracker if you want to do that. So this is the update today. I appreciate you all being here and listening. I wish I had better news today. But we will keep you updated as the day churns on. Please stay tuned. Sign up for email alerts at onthepen.com. Scroll to the bottom of the page. You can sign up for email alerts very fast. We also released a book this past week called Decoding GLP-1, a guide for friends and family of those on the pen. This is an excellent Christmas gift. Anybody who wants to know about these medications, and guess what we cover right in the middle of this book, because this is all about understanding more about your own journey, but it's also helping loved ones in your life understand more about this journey. Right in the middle of this book is actually a section on compounding and what compounding is and what it isn't and what all the implications are in shortage. If you want to understand that, glpbook.com. You can check that out at glpbook.com. That's what I got for you today. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Thank you for following along, and please use the hashtag report the shortage, but also use the hashtag release all the vials, because that is what we need from Eli Lilly. Now we need, with this huge gut punch to patient access, it's never been more important to be calling upon Eli Lilly to release all the vials. Use hashtag release all the vials. Until next time, I hope that you all have a great day. Join us at 9 p.m. Central tonight on our live show with CEO of Roe, Z Raytano. He will be joining us. I'm sure he'll be talking a little bit about Roe's partnership to offer these vials. And so we'll have a great conversation with him, no doubt. So join us tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at On the Pen. Hit that subscribe button before we go. Give it a thumbs up, and we will catch you on the next one.